Hi there, so you probably remember the Marshall Plan grant that we got last year, which we spent about $170,000 on these new machines in our machining program, so that we could look just like our industry. A big portion of that money that's left is to try to educate younger students on manufacturing careers. So one way that we did that is we wrote a grant with Manistee and Gladstone for this tabletop CNC milling machine. So the idea behind this is to get these two machines to those schools, to middle school aged children, so they can learn about coding and about manufacturing, because part of the problem with manufacturing careers and needing more employees is no one knows what manufacturing actually is. So part of that is we've got Marshall Wilson and Hunter Pucci here. There's Marshall and there's Hunter. They're learning how to use this, and they're going to create, or help us create, kind of a canned curriculum for the teachers at Gladstone and Manistee to start with, and then those teachers will be able to learn from that and teach students about programming and manufacturing and profitability and all that has to happen. So this currently has a pen on there. And what are you guys working on right now, Marshall and Hunter?
We're basically putting the names in the program and putting them on the paper,
so that the pen will
write the words.
It seems like a super simple thing, right? But there's a lot to worry about when we're doing this in terms of coding. So Marshall, what's some coding things that we gotta keep in mind when we're writing? What are our names here?
Well, in our thing here, if you notice the B here, it's because basically the machine only has a certain area that it can work with. It can only move so far from side to side and only so far forward and backwards and up and down. And when it got to the letters here after, it had realized that it can no longer get farther over, so it had errored and told us it has reached the limit of the X movement.
Okay.
So we have to worry about how far it can move. In the case of hitting anything like that, we have to make sure we don't.
Right. What about the B here? Why is that B not written? Is that because of a pressure thing, like maybe a Z-axis, or do you think that's just because the pen was sitting there for a while?
It's more so that the pen is sitting there for a while, because
Okay.
it's basically, it takes us so long to write the code on here.
Okay.
We have to like, let's say I'd go, hi there, people online. It takes me at least 2 minutes to write that in, because I type it in letter by letter.
Okay.
And by the time I finished it all and then started the program again, the tip hasn't written anything for a while. So
Okay.
if I were to run the same program once, move it over like an inch over, and then write it again, the B would be as clear as these A's
like
are.
it is. Okay.
Like, see how the A there and the A there?
Yeah. So
Same pressure level.
So that's kind of what we're talking about with those, when we get to some middle school kids, is that critical thinking of what could go wrong. Yep. What could go wrong, what could happen. So another thing, too, is you notice this controller is identical to that controller, or pretty darn close to that controller. So we're going to have a really good scaffolding from program to program. So,
In fact,
go ahead.
In fact, we can actually take a program on the bigger machines, such as things like Dyson blocks, which is a thing that we've done here before, and we can copy it from there, put on a USB flash drive, plug it in like this, and then we can paste it right there, and then we have it on here.
So this machine can do a lot more than just the ink pen, right? It has an 1/8 inch end mill, right?
I believe so.
Yep. So we can
Can't do much, like it can't do any steel or aluminum as much because
so
it has a weaker.
like we use a lot of this countertop material.
It could,
so,
I believe it could do that. It could like
right.
engrave and stuff like that.
So what our plan is we don't want any big mistakes that could be expensive. So we're going to use wax or this countertop material to kind of have those students at Gladstone and Manistee work with. So kind of the kids here may not know this yet or not, but they're going to be our product support once we get this to the school. So let's say Mr. Delgord at Gladstone High School is working on this with his advanced computer coding class, and they're having an issue. They're going to call Hunter and Marshall here and say, hey, this is happening, help us out. And then they're going to run that product control. So kind of a whole loop here. So we're really excited to get this started, get this to high school, so in the middle school. So thanks, guys.
Yep.